Attention, due to the nature of the films discussed, the Civil Gore podcast may contain adult language and themes.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to episode 105 of the Civil Gore podcast. I'm your host, Tim.
And this is your host, Brian. What do you think, Tim? Did you think the luck of the Irish on this half of the Leprechaun franchise was with us, or was the first half? I mean, we'll get into it, but just on a quick overview to start, what do you think?
Oh, it's tough to say because it really depends on what you're looking for in the Leprechaun franchise. But I think I was pleasantly surprised with this back half, actually. It's kind of weird, though. I don't know if it's going to show up in my rankings, though, that way. We'll get to that, but my rankings are kind of interesting, and we'll talk about why that is later on. But yeah, it was an entertaining week. This franchise as a whole has been far more entertaining than I first thought it would be.
Yes, I think I really thought we were going to be in, after Leprechaun in Space, I thought this week was going to be really, really rough, but turned out to be a pleasant surprise and a little bit different than I thought. So, but we'll get to that. But yeah, so this will be a fun episode though. So we'll finish off our Leprechaun series with part 2, which goes from episode with Leprechaun 5 through the final of Leprechaun Returns.
Yep, 8 films in total, and this will be the last 4. So let's get right to it. Here is our first. What's going on? Brian, are you playing Irish music?
No, I mean, my feed, I do own a feed dog, but it's packed away. I actually thought that was coming from your side.
No, it's definitely not me. Oh no, look who just walked in.
Oh God. It can't be, is that? Yes, it is I, Richard Dreyfuss.
Well, you haven't been here in a while, but why are you here today?
What better time, me lads, than the president? I'm here because I have a long-standing beef. Well, Tim, I knew this day would come. We probably did one too many imitations. No, me lads. But now that you said that, I'll be getting to that at a later time. Right now, because of all this talk of gold from your Leprechaun film discussions, it reminds me of the time me gold was stolen.
What gold was that?
Me Oscar gold, of course, me lads. From when that man of wee intelligence, Forrest Gump, lifted me a word right from the grasp of Mr. Holland himself. I mean, Mr. Holland's opus was great, and it's one of our favorites, but you gotta give credit where credit is due. Bullshite! I'll give you a whack of Michelin, is what I'll give you. I was robbed, and everyone knows it.
Hey, calm down. It's not like we took it.
You might as well, the way you've been speaking, you blimey bastards. Whoa. Would it make you feel better if we said Forrest Gump is a no-good thief? Well, you said it, I didn't.
Wait, but you did say it.
Tim, yeah, he's right. We did say it. And we meant it. Yeah, that's the spirit. I knew I liked you lads. Now what do you say we have a few pints, get knackered, and discuss me all-time classic, Krippendorf's Tribe? Yeah.
Sure. Why don't you head over and save us some seats at the local pub, and we'll be along right after we're finished.
You got it, me lads. I'll be on my way. Wow, that sure was an interesting visit, but you realize the nearest Irish pub is a few days' walk from here.
Oh, I'm well aware.
Brains and dulcet tones. Well, let's get on with the show.
All right, well, now that that's over, Brian, I guess we can actually get into our first chop.
Yeah, we got a little interrupted, guys, so sorry about that. But you never know who's going to just drop by the Civil Gore Studios,
yeah,
you know?
We have an open door policy, unfortunately. So, sometimes that backfires on us, but...
Yeah, some people read too much into that. And
So let's get right into it. This is our first chop. All right, Brian, my 40 Years of Terror project continues, and this year was 1973, which I was very excited about because, of course, I love my 70s movies.
You do.
1973 was another fantastic year for horror movies. So you had, of course, The Exorcist. You had The Wicker Man. You had The Vault of Horror. You had Don't Look Now, which we covered fairly recently with the great, which produced our Sutherland ass meme. Legend of Hell House, Theater of Blood. And now the screaming starts. Then you start getting some. You have George Romero's The Crazies. You start to get into some maybe lesser known ones, but man, a really, really good year for horror movies. And the one I picked was one I had to pick because it starred Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing.
Whoa.
And those are no-brainers. I mean, you have to do those. So
Yes, Lavender and what was it, Lavender and Linen himself?
Lavender
Peter
and Linen
Cushing?
himself. I don't know yet what Christopher Lee smells like, but we'll have to think about that one.
I want to smell, I think I want to say like a little bit of sour whiskey and a pipe.
Yeah, I was
don't
thinking
know.
more of a cigar, but I don't know that he smokes cigars. I don't know.
Hey, he looks like a pipe guy,
Yeah, he might be a
I
pipe
don't know.
guy. I could see that. Little tobacco.
you know?
Little John
Yeah.
Lithgow tobacco.
Yeah,
There.
let's go tobacco.
This one's called Nothing But the Night, and I realize that sounds kind of like a softcore Skinamax movie from the early 90s, but this one is actually a horror film. I would consider it more of a, I don't know, I consider it more kind of a thriller-ish. It's very, again, kind of police procedural-ish, and Christopher Lee plays a police officer, and he's investigating some mysterious deaths of these trustees for this orphanage fund, which is worth a ton of money. And 3 of these trustees die in mysterious circumstances, which are made to look like suicides. But Christopher Lee doesn't believe they are suicides. And then the capper, which brings the police involved, is a bus accident with a bus full of orphans in which was really mysterious circumstances. And Christopher Lee has enough of this. One of the orphans survives. She's under the care of a psychiatrist. Then the psychiatrist dies under mysterious circumstances. So Christopher Lee gets involved to find out what in the world's going on. And Peter Cushing plays the supervisor of the psychiatrist who died that was treating this girl. So he gets involved. And then what plays out is like everything I've ever wanted, which is sort of like a detective story starring Christopher Lee and as maybe the Sherlock Holmes and Peter Cushing as maybe the Dr. Watson.
See, and there was no pipes in this movie?
No pipes that I can recall.
There should have been a pipe. I think that's it sounds like the only thing lacking from this one.
So if you can imagine the phenomenon of Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing investigating a series of murders, that's exactly what this is. It sounds pretty cool. But yeah, Nothing But the Night. It's a decent watch. I mean, it's definitely not up there as memorable as a lot of my early 70s films, especially ones with Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee, but I'd give it a shot. It's on Amazon Prime right now. Nothing But the Night.
Good. Nice. And we're gonna normally here's where I would do my Twilight Zone ones, but I skipped it this week. But as you'll see why I put it on hold, because as you've already hopefully listened to after this episode drops, was we put a little bonus mini-sode out there this week. But anyway, that's why I skipped my Twilight Zone project. But we'll move on to some next news, which today, which is the day of our recording, which was actually earlier this Monday. So we're going back in time, and I'm probably confusing all of you right now. But either way, the 3 from Hell, long-awaited 3 from Hell trailer was released, the full trailer this time. We had the little teaser for the trailer, and it's so funny. We talked about it with Jimmy Dempster. Now it's like now you get teasers for teasers and stuff. But this is a full trailer. It's really interesting. Kind of gives you enough of the vibe. You kind of see where the movie's going to be going with it. But I only watched it once intentionally because I want to kind of go into this a little bit more, just I don't want to have this start analyzing what this scene means and what that scenes mean. So I watched it once. I thought it looked really cool, looks really intriguing, and I'm of course going to see it when it comes out. So did you get to see it, Tim? What'd you think?
Yes, I loved it. It looks like everything I wanted a follow-up to Devil's Rejects to be, because it's definitely a direct continuation of the earlier movie. Has all the characters, of course, that I wanted to see. It looks phenomenal, and I really, if the movie lives up to the trailer, I'm going to be very, very happy.
Yeah, I agree. It's good. I think the trailer was a really good trailer because it kind of gave the vibe of the film without giving away really where it's going to go.
No, it's not. I didn't find it spoilery at all. I thought the trailer was it was a lot of scenes. There's a lot of stuff in the trailer, but I didn't feel like any of it told me really what the movie, or gave me too much of information about what the movie's going to be about. So I'm very, very excited for this.
Right, I think it was cut very well, the trailer.
Yeah, it was the scenes were so short that there was no context. So there was no way to really piece together what the plot was. I guess I'm trying to say. Right. So that one's phenomenal. I really, really looking forward to Speaking of things you should be looking forward to, that's the latest episode of Casualty Friday. This is, of course, the podcast with Felissa Rose, Tiffany Shepis, and Kane Hodder, which is great. They just dropped their second episode, and I love this one. I look forward to this one every single week.
And this one was great because it was basically the whole topic was the con life.
Mm-hmm.
And as you know, of course, we've mentioned ad nauseum, right? How many times we've mentioned our New Jersey Horror Con experience and how great it was to meet everybody. But they went into a lot of really cool stuff. They told some fun stories. They told some, just what it was like to be. They even mentioned New Jersey Horror Con a couple times, which I was like, yeah. I was like hoping for a little quick mention of us, but there was not. I think we were mentioned in spirit.
Yeah.
I think we were in that group of things they love. With the fans. I think that's them. So. They meant us, but no, of course, yeah. So I was super excited to listen to that one, and it was great because they were like, they're so themselves on that show, and that's what I love. It's like, it's like if you meet them in person, they're gonna act exactly like they do on their podcast, which is what makes them all so adored by the fandom, and. Yeah, so it was like, and actually Tiffany Shepis had told a story. I don't know if you caught the thing where she was saying how there was one fan, I guess, one celebrity that they were all kind of like saying is like not the nicest at these cons.
Yeah.
And of course I went back, I'm like, is she going to say Billy Peltzer? But no.
We're kidding, Billy Peltzer.
We're just kidding. He's actually he's a nice guy. We just as Civil Gore does, we take a joke and run with it until the end of time.
Yeah.
But So she said she's going to give clues. Actually, she tweeted today she's going to keep giving clues until episode 8, which is the final episode, and she's going to reveal who she was talking about.
That's hilarious.
But yeah, and it's fun, and of course they just kill it every week on that show, and they I love when Tiffany does an imitation of Felissa with the accent, which is just classic because she does that. She did that in person. We saw it, so it's great. And yeah, you just cannot not love this podcast. If you are a horror fan, this is like it's such a great real podcast of like the real people. You really get a taste of what they're like. Yeah. It's awesome.
All right, next up, this is very interesting news. So Alexandra Aja, probably butchering that name, who did Crawl, the recent movie Crawl, which I left off of our Discmemberment, unfortunately. I'm sorry, guys. I usually give the theatrical releases, but we haven't had any in a while because our vacations skipped over Child's Play and Annabelle and Midsummer, and I got all screwed up, and I totally forgot about the theatrical releases, so I missed Crawl.
Yeah, Cone saw it. He said it was good. He liked it.
It looks pretty interesting. So, but this director is rumored to reboot Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah, I think there's a list, like a short list of people that they're looking for, and he got on it now, so that's pretty good.
Now, we can ask ourselves whether a reboot of Nightmare on Elm Street is a good idea or not. I don't know. I mean, the part of me says absolutely not. I mean, because we don't need another remake of such a classic. But then again, we'll look at what Halloween did. Halloween came out and it was a great movie. Now, granted, it's harder to do Freddy because he's not behind a mask. And Robert Englund's probably not going to reprise Freddy, I'm assuming.
Well, he did say, he said he might have one more in him, and Heather Langenkamp said she would be back. So and look at now what Halloween did.
Now,
right?
if that happened,
they got the original Michael Myers in there.
Yeah.
They got the original Laurie Strode. You know what? They may just grab those coattails and go right on, because imagine a Nightmare on Elm Street that kind of I wonder if they would go how they would do it if they'd go direct sequel to the first one. But I mean, because Nancy was in the third one, but then again, Laurie Strode was. So I don't know how they'll go.
I mean, they could do the same thing. They could just ignore every sequel and make a direct follow up.
They could.
They could do that.
And I think everyone would be fine with it if they got the original stars back in it.
Yeah.
And they just did a good job. And again, I feel it's, reboot has such a bad connotation. And, unfortunately, Nightmare on Elm Street, it was left with a bad taste in his mouth. And poor Jack Earl Haley was a victim of
it was not his fault.
Going against a legend.
Yeah.
A guy that created. That's literally if David Howard Thornton does 6 Terrifier movies and they replace him with someone who's really a great actor. But if he's not David Howard Thornton, are you going to where are you going to hold them to those standards? It's impossible, so it's like, especially when it's, you see the facial expressions come through, it's not like you can, nothing, and not taking away from Kane Hodder because he added a lot to Jason by his certain movements, but behind the mask, you can get away with.
Although I will say our franchise, this episode, Brian, does show how a different actor can portray a villain and do a really good job.
Right, I agree, and I was gonna, and we'll get to that when we discuss it because, that's one of some of the notes I kind of a little off to the side there that on how, we'll get into it more, but I was so pleasantly so not surprised, I guess, because when we met him, he seemed like he was really into it. Just how good Lyndon Porco did as the Leprechaun character, but we'll get into that later. But yeah, that's another good point to kind of go against this. It's like, and Leprechaun is one of those characters where there's jokes and there's voices, and again, we'll get into that when we go to Leprechaun's origin, as Tim and I both kind of had the same reaction to that one. But so you know what? I am so open to a new Nightmare on Elm Street. I'm willing to see what they're gonna do with it. I'm hoping it's it's kind of like a repeat of what the magic that Halloween captured, and I guess we're definitely gonna keep an eye on it.
Yeah.
So,
Brian, I'll let you talk about this one because I did not see it. This is a French short film, indie slasher short called Residual.
Yeah, the Dark Universe tweeted this link to this. It was on YouTube. It's really cool. It's just a short film. I can't really go into too many details because one, it's a short film. It's like 13 minutes. So to really go through it, it's like, it doesn't make sense when it's so short. But also, there's a couple of twists in it that I don't want to give away. So I would just say that if you're, you know me, I love my short horror films, and this one is definitely one worth your 15 minutes without question. It's really well done. Great cinematography on it. Great, just great pacing of it. It's really, really good.
All right, this next one, Brian, I'm really excited about. This is a life-size...
You're going to own this, aren't you?
I'm going to own this. A life-size animatronic Sam, a.k.a. Burp Smap, if you've listened to Kim and Ket podcast, coming from Spirit Halloween, and I look at the animatronics at Spirit Halloween, I think, oh man, I would love to own one of these one day, but I never seriously think about actually buying them, because they're expensive.
Yeah.
But I really honestly want to buy this.
Well, and it's life-size, so it's short.
Yeah, I'm hoping, because it's shorter, it's not like the Michael Myers full one, I'm hoping because it's shorter, it may be less expensive, and somewhat in the realm of possibility for me to buy this.
Yeah, I kind of want to buy it too, and even though I have an apartment, I can't put out decorations anywhere outside. This thing would be just like living in my apartment with us, so I don't know how Julie's going to quite feel about that. She knows the character, so at least it's not going to be like, what the hell is that? She'll know who she'll know who it is. She'll be more like, why the hell is that here?
And it has the pumpkin head underneath the mask, so you can...
Oh, I didn't read that part. It does?
Yeah, I went and looked at the website, and yeah, you can actually pull the mask piece off. I don't know if it's a replaceable head or if just the mask comes off. And you
can remove the burp smap.
Yeah, you can remove the burp smap and the pumpkin head's underneath it. So that's another bonus why I really want to buy this one.
That you could make your own trick-or-treat house from Halloween Horror Nights.
Oh my gosh.
Basically.
I'm serious. I'm not really joking. Yeah. I really kind of want this thing.
I do too, and that's terrible because at least you have a where to put it. Where am I going to do it? I'm literally going to have this thing sitting in the guest bedroom.
I'm seriously thinking, if this thing comes out and it's reasonably priced, I will promise, and it's going to be hard because Kevin's wedding and everything, but I will try to do a trick-or-treat themed yard for this Halloween.
Yeah.
I'm putting that on the table. I'm going to do a trick-or-treat themed yard this Halloween.
You know what would be really cool? But, I know this kind of goes against the grain because I know you're not going to have trick-or-treaters that night, but maybe we could if when I'm out there visiting with that, maybe we'll play characters and you can just advertise, say, look, we're going to trick-or-treat. Trick-or-treaters are welcome on October, whatever.
Yeah.
The 13th.
It wouldn't be hard to make your own one of these. It wouldn't be like a moving animatronic, but I could see how you could make a Sam doll type thing, mannequin, fairly easily.
Yeah, it's pretty basic costume you're looking at.
I could make the head out of stuffing and burlap or burp smap. And,
and what is it like? He wears like a one-piece pajama type of thing,
you could do it so easily. I don't know, man. I'm seriously thinking about doing a themed yard this year.
Does it make sounds?
I forgot to check and see. Like, that'd be cool if it made sounds. I don't know. I don't remember that Sam made sound. I don't know what sound it would make.
He didn't. He just like made you just heard. I think he kind of just heard the sound of him like shuffling.
Yeah, the Michael Myers plays the full Halloween theme. I really want that one, but it's like $200.
Yeah. So you figure, okay, so if he's 200 and he's like stands over 6 feet tall, this is probably what stands about 4 feet.
I'm hoping it's $100. If it's $100, I'm getting it.
Yeah. Well, and now you would know better than me because I know you tend to go look at the like right after the end of the season where they go on clearance. Like what would like do you think do those animatronic ones go on clearance too?
They do, but the problem is they get bought so quick. Like you have to literally get up at like 5 a.m. and be waiting at the front door of the freaking Halloween place. I don't even bother to try to get those on clearance because they're gone so quickly.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go to, because that, that big Halloween store I told you, that Ruby's costume where I went in and they had all that cool stuff. They're open year round. So maybe I'll go like one day this week after work or something or during lunch or something. And I'll go pop in and I'll find out. I'll see if I can get some details, like if they have them on order, because they seem to have all those kind of animatronics there. I could ask them. I'll say, look, what's the price? When are you getting it in?
Oh, wait a minute. Here it is, Brian. $169 is the pre-order price.
Oh. Okay, that's not bad.
Yeah, I mean it's a little more than I want to
pricey,
spend.
but
I was hoping for more around the $100 range. But
well, I guess we'll have to crank out that Patreon thing sooner than later.
I don't know. Oh, we'll think about
Level 5 is you get to go shopping with Tim and go pick out his Burps map animatronic.
All right, so next up, Jordan Peele's Candyman, which I can't believe I'm saying that. It sounds so cool. Jordan Peele's Candyman filming this August in Chicago.
Yes, or if Kelly Bundy. Chicago.
Yeah.
But so there's really not much more to say about that other than we're excited, and if you're in Chicago, I guess take a look.
Now, as a Batman fan, I'm really excited about this next one. John Carpenter is co-writing a one-shot Joker comic book for DC this Halloween called Joker: Year of the Villain. He's got how cool is John Carpenter? He's like 70-some years old, and he's out there like doing concerts and writing comic books, and I wish I could be.
And you know what? I'm looking at this. You have a horror icon going into one of the most iconic comic book villains of all time. So now you got horror, Joker, and I'm thinking if they make a movie of this particular thing, you need David Howard Thornton.
Oh yeah.
As the Joker. We've seen him play it, so
that's right. And Joker's always been, and that might explain my kind of love for the character. Joker's always been one of the more scary superhero villains. He's always been on the horror spectrum. So, I think that's one of the reasons I've always been attracted to Batman, because it's very dark. It's a very dark comic. It's very, it's got a lot of horror type elements to it, kind of on the fringes. So,
yeah, definitely.
Now this one sounds cool, Brian. The Witch is to be screened on a billboard in a remote town in rural New Hampshire on August 6th. So
which is Ossipee, New Hampshire.
What brought this about? I'm curious.
I don't know. Apparently, it's A24 Films is actually doing it, but I think it's something they do every so often around there, and I think it's like, I assume it's like that. New Hampshire, parts of New Hampshire has that feel that the movie had. I guess that. Especially the rural spots of it. So imagine how cool that is, just seeing this in the middle of like nowhere, watching The Witch.
Yeah, that sounds
like
awesome.
on a random thing. And it's funny because if you look at the article, they kind of list the coordinates to where it is exactly, where the billboard is.
That's cool.
So it's like I don't even know if you get an exact because how else do you give directions to a billboard? It's not like it's got an address.
Yeah, well these days you just give the GPS coordinates. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what they give you, like, I think longitude and latitude or something on there, and it's kind of like a geocache to find a movie. I love when people do like themed things like this. This is great.
Yeah, that sounds fun. Next up, Sam Raimi teases the return of the Evil Dead film franchise and hoping that Bruce Campbell makes a comeback. He has one idea if he does and one if he doesn't. Interesting.
I like that he's prepared. You know?
Yeah,
you gotta like people who are prepared.
I love Evil Dead. I love Ash vs. Evil Dead. I will do anything Evil Dead, whatever Sam Raimi wants to do, I'm in. Yeah, he can do no wrong in my eyes. So,
right. And if there's anyone that can convince Bruce Campbell out of retirement for one more go,
Yeah, it's
I
his
think
buddy
it'll be Sam Raimi. Yeah. So
This is big news, guys, and we'll need to. Unfortunately, this episode's going to drop right before this does, but we'll definitely cover it on next episode. Scream Factory is announcing 15 new titles this Saturday at San Diego Comic-Con, 9 p.m. Pacific.
yeah, and Kona's all over it. He's going to be like following this thing. So he says he's already gonna be compiling a list of stuff to come on. Because, this he's aware of, and then I think NECA's got something over there. So he's going to definitely we'll have to have him on after, for his annual, like, con and toy news reports and stuff.
Speaking of Cone, this wasn't on the rundown, but I'm going to mention it now that I think about it. He linked me to a Twitch stream of the It Terror Below board game. And so I got to watch some gameplay of it. So I can tell you a little bit about that if you want. So basically, the game takes place in the setting of the most recent It movie, the 2017 version. And the board is basically the city of Derry, and it's divided into several neighborhoods, which are color-coded. And you can play one of the 7 characters, or one of the 7 kids in the movie. They each have their own special power. Pennywise kind of goes around the board, and there's balloons on each section of the city. And basically what happens is you rolled a set of dice, of 7 dice, and if any balloons come up on those dice, then Pennywise kidnaps a child from that particular neighborhood, depending on what color it was.
Oh, cool.
And you lose the...
Not that it's cool kidnapping child, but cool this game.
Yeah, so this is a cooperative game, I must say. So everybody who's playing is working to get together to defeat Pennywise. So you're not working against each other or anything. So Pennywise wins the game if A, he kidnaps all the children from 3 different districts, or B, he fills up his kidnapped kid track, I think, or C, if he kills any one of the kids, that are the players, I mean. That's the ways you can lose. To win, you have to basically fight and defeat Pennywise. So you're rolling these dice, and these dice allow you to do different actions. If the balloons come up, that means Pennywise kind of gets to kidnap a kid. But if anything else comes up, you have different things you can do with those dice. You can move around the neighborhood. You can get cards to put in a fight battle deck, and these cards correspond to different objects that are sentimental to the kids, and they correspond to different neighborhoods. And you can also heal yourself, and there's other things you can do. And so you're trying basically to form an attack deck against Pennywise that is stacked with your cards and has very few Pennywise cards in it. And there's ways his cards get added to the deck as well. Then when you feel like you're powerful enough, you can go and try to confront Pennywise. And then you start drawing cards off the top of this deck, trying to fulfill objectives. And these objectives are randomized. And if you fulfill those objectives, you score hits against Pennywise. But if you don't, and Pennywise attacks, then the battle instantly ends and you get penalized. So there's a little bit of a press your luck element. Like, how much do we turn over trying to get one of these combinations, but before Pennywise attacks, and basically we lose all our progress, kind of thing.
Ah, so instead of no whammies, it's no pennies.
Yeah,
no pennies.
Exactly. So it's kind of interesting mechanic. I play a lot of co-op games, so some of this stuff sounded familiar to me, like the dice actions and stuff. So it's interesting. I'm hoping I get to see it when I go to Gen Con, which is coming up shortly, like 3 weeks from now.
Oh, right.
So I'll be on the lookout for it. But first impressions, it's very thematic, very much like the movie. And in fact, the designer called it a jump scare in a box. I don't know if I'd go quite that far, but it's pretty interesting. I think if you're a fan of the movie, you'd really dig this game. So I'll get some more information on it, but I just want to let you guys know I had watched that playthrough. And it's available. If you go on YouTube, just look up Twitch, It Terror Below, you'll find it. It's pretty neat.
Oh, cool. Look at Coney's like on the ball.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. All right, guys, so let's get right to our Blu-ray releases for July 23rd, 2019. This is our Discmemberment.
Wait, no, please, God. No, don't come on.
All right, we've got a short week, Brian, but we do have one big release that I want to tell you guys about. The first one is not it, but I'm still interested in it. This is Critters Attack from 2019. This is the latest Critters film. This was released by Warner Brothers, directed by Bobby Miller, starring Tashawn Washington, Dee Wallace. Our great Dee Wallace. That's worth watching it just for her.
Yeah, just for that automatically makes it a must-watch.
Yeah, and Jaden Noel. This follows 20-year-old Drea, or Dre, maybe, I don't know. I haven't seen the movie. I don't know if it's Drea or Drea.
Drea.
Who reluctantly takes a job babysitting for a professor of a college she hopes to attend. Struggling to entertain the professor's children, Trissy and Jake, along with her own little brother Philip, Drea takes them on a hike, unaware that mysterious alien critters have crash-landed and started devouring every living thing they encounter. So this has a few special features, an engineering gore, designing critters featurette, Critters and Out of This World Experience featurette, the Critter Ball featurette, and a scene-specific commentary with director Bobby Miller and a critter, which I don't know how that works, but we'll see.
Is that Trump a film historian?
I don't know.
You know, I want to know, it's funny, the Critter Ball, that's the perfect name for if they ever have a Critters-only convention.
Yeah.
You know, the Critter Ball, where you just go, everyone can, like, I guess grab a certain critter and twirl on the dance floor. I don't know.
Next up is our pick of the week, Brian. I'm going to say this is your pick of the week as well, because I think it is.
Of course it is.
This is the Universal Horror Collection Volume 2. A few weeks back, we talked about the Universal Horror Collection Volume 1, and these are really cool box sets that bring some Universal horror movies that you're probably not as familiar with because they don't feature the Universal monsters. But there was also a large slate of Universal horror films released that weren't Frankenstein, Mummy, Creature from the Black Lagoon, and all that. So this is released by Shout Factory, and it covers the years 1933 to 1943. And the films included are Murder in the Zoo, The Mad Ghoul, The Mad Doctor of Market Street, and The Strange Case of Dr. RX. Dr. Prescription, I guess. This one has a few cool special features. It's got a new audio commentary with author, film historian Greg Mank, and a still gallery for Murders in the Zoo. A theatrical trailer and still gallery for Mad Doctor of Market Street. A featurette, Gloriously Wicked, The Life and Legacy of Lionel Atwill, and a still gallery for The Strange Case of Dr. RX. And a new audio commentary by film historian Thomas Reeder, and still gallery for The Mad Ghoul. I'm not familiar with these films. I don't know how good they are, but I tell you, these box sets look really, really cool. They look really nice on the shelf, so I'm kind of tempted to get both of these.
Yeah, I'm the only reason I'm holding out is to see if they just do like volume 1 and 2 in a set.
Right, like a big giant. Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah, I don't know how long I can hold out for, but I'm going to try for a little bit.
And they're not, as I recall, they're not crazy expensive. I think they're about $50 for these sets, so not too bad for 4 movies.
Right.
Next up is Assimilate from 2019. This is a Gravitas Ventures release.
Oh, yeah, this is Andy Matichuk.
Yeah, this one's directed by John Merlowski and starring Andy Matichuk, Callum Worthy, and Joel Courtney. 3 friends making a web series about their town discover that their neighbors are being killed and replaced by creatures who are perfect copies of their victims.
It sounds like a modern Body Snatchers.
Yeah. So I don't know much about that one, but that one's just a kind of a new release, and no special features on that one that I could tell. But next up, we have one that is Brian's guess for the week, and you need to look at this cast very carefully.
That I know. I just looked down, and when I saw the cast, I instantly had an idea for the movie when I quickly saw the title. But now this cast is making me think otherwise.
So this one's
my guess would have been. I don't know.
Talk about coming out of left field. When I saw this, I thought it was a movie from like the 90s or something that I had not.
Yeah, it's not.
Rock, Paper, Scissors. This is from 2017, released by Lionsgate, directed by Tom Holland of Child's Play fame himself, starring Michael Madsen, Tatum O'Neal, and Maureen McCormick from the Brady Bunch.
Marsha.
So,
well, that's not Jan. Jan is the one that says that, but Marsha was, of course.
How is this not a 90s movie? Tell me how this is not a 90s movie with that cast.
So, okay, I'm going to give you my guess as if I didn't see this cast.
Okay.
I would have thought it was a group of teens who play the long-standing rock, paper, scissors game, but something goes wrong and it turns deadly. But now with this all-adult cast in it, I have no clue what the heck this thing is about. Unless they all play the parents or like faculty of some school where that exact plot happens.
No, you are totally wrong.
Which
is usual for your guesses, but
yeah. But wouldn't that make a good movie?
That would.
What I just came up with?
I think you might actually like the description of this movie even better.
Oh, okay.
This sounds actually really cool. I kind of want to see this movie. Peter the Doll Maker Harris returns to his ancestral family home after being released from the state's hospital for the criminally insane a cured man. Once inside the old house, anguished memories from a tortured childhood and ghostly visitations from his past victims shake Peter's resolve. It isn't until lovely young Ashley enters his life that Peter makes a fateful decision, a decision that will rekindle old desires that always ended in murder.
That does sound good. I just have one thing about that description. Obviously, his love interest is not, since you said young, it's not Tatum O'Neal and Maureen McCormick.
Yeah, so I don't know where they
no
come
offense to them. They're just, I wouldn't classify them as young.
No.
Unless you really made a drastic error and it's really like 1987 or something, this movie.
Well, see, I'd like to think that this movie is actually a sequel to The Brady Bunch, where Marcia gets stalked by this crazy doll maker serial killer.
Maybe. Oh, and think, she was married to Wally, who worked for Tyler Toys.
Oh.
And if he's a doll maker, maybe Michael Madsen plays a more deranged version of Wally after he got fired from Tyler
Maybe
Toys.
he's the doll.
Remember, he did.
Oh, he's the doll maker that made Chucky, because Tom Holland directed.
Oh, you're right.
Mm.
Oh. Look at that. We shared like 3 universes in one.
We just tied Brady Bunch to Child's Play. Do that, other podcast. You can't.
Yeah, I dare you. Well, didn't we also got Cocoon mixed with something once?
Oh, yeah. I think we had the Marvel Universe tied with Cocoon somehow at some point.
Yeah, I think we amaze ourselves.
Oh, with the birds. It was with the birds.
That's right. Yes, the birds.
Yeah.
See? Now go figure that. I think we're masters at that.
All right, so let's get to our summer Slaycation. All right, I had to leave some room for my sound effect.
Yes.
But
it's glad because now I'm kind of glad. We had a lot going on in that first part of the episode, including our surprise guest that came on, but also I kind of want to get back to finish off the Leppy series here.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to talking about these. So first up was Leprechaun in the Hood, aka Leprechaun 5. This was from the year 2000, which no longer sounds futuristic. It just sounds old.
Yeah, it sounds old now.
Directed by Rob Spera, starring Warwick Davis as the Leprechaun, Ice-T as Mac Daddy, Anthony Montgomery as Postmaster P, Rashawn Nall as Stray Bullet, Red Grant as Butch, Dan Martin as Jackie D, and Lobo Sebastian as Fontaine Rivera.
Now that was a character, yeah. Fontaine Rivera.
When 3 rappers want to get even with a pimp, they accidentally unleash a leprechaun who goes on a killing rampage in the hood. Now, I will say this. Okay, now keep in mind that the prequel to this is Leprechaun in Space. So they had to give them credit. True. They basically ignored Leprechaun 4 and made this kind of a semi-sequel to Leprechaun 3. Because they bring back the Leprechaun statue with the medallion that if you take the medallion off, Leprechaun comes back to life. So they kept that intact, and I really liked that part of it. That they kind of tried to continue the story from where Leprechaun 3 left off. And
they added a flute.
They did add a flute. So now
they add a flute to the lore. As we always say, they add and they take away different parts of the lore with it. This brought stuff back and then added a flute.
Yeah, the flute plays a pivotal role in the plot of this movie because, as we learned in the synopsis, these 3 rappers who are not very good, they're trying to make a name for themselves. They want to get even with this pimp record producer type guy, and so they rob him, and that's how the leprechaun gets released and all that. But there's this magical flute that basically gives you success in the music industry, essentially, if you want it to, because it basically mesmerizes. Like, if you play it, like, everybody like turns their attention to you, like they fall in love with you. So
it basically takes place to the gold, the coin.
It really does.
That you could do in 3.
Yeah, it's almost like they replaced the whole. And I guess being it kind of music hip hop themed, they needed something to drive that kind of angle.
Yeah, I mean, as crazy as this sounds, the premise wasn't totally outlandish. I mean, in terms of a leprechaun film. I mean,
no.
It's like they updated it, I guess.
Yeah, and I'm okay with them adding stuff if it drives the plot home a little more. And given it was a better plot point for this setting and for this movie featuring, hip hop artists, that kind of thing, to have like this musical themed, what do you call those? MacGuffins or whatever that drives the plot.
Yeah.
So I was okay with that piece of it. It was kind of weird because when they played the flute, like nothing came out. Like,
yeah, it was like almost like a dog
Yeah,
whistle
it's like
in turn, but it was a leprechaun whistle or something. I don't know. It was very, yeah. It was. I mean, this is definitely. I mean, even though we've said some positive things about it, overall, it was probably my second least favorite.
Yeah, I've heard so much about this movie. I was expecting it to be way better than it actually was. And I was very disappointed because, well, number one, I found it a little offensive at times.
Oh my God, really? A lot at some parts. And like, I was to the point of, I was like, I can't believe they this is the movie they released. I mean,
now granted, we're looking at this almost 20 years later. And
right.
Times have changed quite a bit since then. Now, granted, even 2000, I didn't feel like was that politically correct, but apparently it was. Now I will say this movie was written by an African American writer, so it's not. I'm not saying it.
Right. At least it's.
I'm not saying it's racist. By any stretch of imagination. I'm just saying there are stereotypes and stuff in here that by today's standards,
there's multiple stereotypes of other ethnicities in this. It's just.
There's things in here that struck me as a little off-centered or off of what I was super comfortable with. Like, like the leprechaun. I'll give you a prime example. Like the leprechaun gets awoken and he's going, free at last, great God Almighty, I'm free at last. And I was just like cringing because I'm like, oh, God, that's not. Yeah. I mean, I know, again, like I said, this has African American writers with it. I'm sure they were just kind of poking fun at their whole culture and stuff. But I was like, oh, I don't want to get anywhere near this.
Yeah, I don't. It's but I mean, it was like, and then I guess was it the store owner?
Yeah, you had like the Asian store owner stereotype.
Yeah, I mean, and that was like, I mean, like all kind of levels of offensive. I mean, yeah, it was. I mean, but like you said, the thing is, it was an attempt at a very, very comedic version of it. But I don't know. Maybe it's because you're right. Maybe it's because now the time we're living in, we're just more sensitive to it, and like, I mean, the fact that we're getting offended by it, I can't imagine what some might if they didn't.
Yeah, and then you had some
the backstory to it, I guess, but
definitely some homophobic type stereotypes in there as well. Which was
what was it? That was
Fontaine Rivera, so that was a little uncomfortable as well. Again, you have to look at it. You're looking at this with the benefit of hindsight, but it was a little cringeworthy. Just fair warning in places.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, and it. The comedy wasn't strong enough in the other spots to support any kind of like, it's like it wasn't funny. I know where they meant to be funny in spots too, and it didn't hit either.
Right, and there's like there's like movies like I'm Gonna Get You Sucker and stuff like that that make fun of that whole culture that are hysterical. Even today I find hilarious. But this I didn't find funny. I think that's why it makes it a little more like cringy.
Yeah, and it stands out more as as that. Yeah. So I mean, and it's weird. It almost like the horror elements even to it got lost in it. It was just I mean, like I said, like on paper the plot could have been wasn't that bad, and as you'll see, it's I think as we get to the next one. They had the same type of setting, and I actually really enjoyed the next one.
And before we talk about Back to the Hood, I have to say, what is up with the zombie fly girls? Yeah, that was so off the wall. That's another reason this movie just was totally bad for me. That was another power he gets besides the flute. Now he's able to summon these quote unquote zombie fly girls, which are exactly what you think. They're like the fly girls from In Living Color.
Yeah, and it's funny. Yeah, and it's, I mean, so it's, see, again, it's like that, I guess, I think the problem I have with it is he like you said, they added this power, but it was just to, I know it was an attempt to fit into the storyline, but I think it's just, everything they did here was just missed because of, I think, what we said about how some of the offensive stuff. And that's the problem. I wonder if it was not as offensive and that was... and it's I think maybe it was just misplaced at that point. By that point, I don't know. It's a hard movie to really talk about.
Yeah, and at the end, there's this god awful rap sequence where he's like, rapping with them. Oh god, it was bad. It was really bad.
Yeah. I'm surprised they got Warwick Davis to come back again. I don't.
So
that one.
Okay, so that takes us to Leprechaun Back to the Hood, which is 2003. 3 years later, this was directed by Stephen Iramlui. I don't know. Starring Warwick Davis as the Leprechaun, Tangi Miller as Emily Woodrow, Laz Alonso as Rory, Paige Kennedy as Jamie Davis, Sherry Jackson as Lisa Duncan, Donzale Abernathy as Esmeralda, Sheikh Mahmoud Bey as Watson, Sticky Fingers as Cedric, and Keisha Sharp as Chanel.
Yeah. By the way, Tangi Miller, did you know what she was from? It took me a while to get it. She was in Felicity.
Oh, I knew I recognized her.
She was the roommate.
Yeah. This one's about Emily Woodrow and her friends happening on a treasure chest full of gold coins, but they failed to heed the warnings of a wise old psychic who had foretold that they would encounter trouble with a very nasty and protective leprechaun. Now, to me, Brian, I don't know how you felt. I felt like this was the movie that Leprechaun in the Hood should have been.
Exactly. And that's what I was kind of leading to. I was going to wait until we actually got to it. Yes, that's as I was watching this, I was like, there should have been just this one, because because this one I immediately got pulled into the story. It started off right with a bang and it set you up with what you were going to get. And this one is I just like the plot. And if you think about it, the plot's been done, but they put it in a different setting. And this time they used the setting to just to really what it was as a setting for a good plot. And, it was interesting how they were, obviously the people, they were kind of she was trying to save up money to get out of the area. And they were, a lot of them were down on their luck, and you could tell. And then they come across this opportunity, so to speak, to get rich. And, and it's she went to the psychic, and they flat out said, oh, your gold is going to come your way, but you need to refuse it. And, and she does seem to have a head on her shoulders. And, when I first saw it, I'm like, oh, she's going to refuse. I thought she's going to refuse it, and one of the other characters are going to take it. And but you know what? She, like everything else, the temptation of it to get rich quick and solve all of her problems with the money was, I guess, too great. And she was doing good things with it. That was the thing. Unlike the other characters throughout the series, they took the gold for very greedy reasons. She took it and immediately started giving it away to help people. And, she gave it to her friend to buy a new car. She gave it to her I guess, ex-boyfriend to stop selling drugs and get a better life. She gave it to her that one friend of theirs that was just he's a goofball and was getting I guess, associating with another group of drug dealers, and she kind of wanted to help him out so he could stop doing that. She just was all trying to do good things. But once again, you take the leprechaun's gold, you're going to have to pay the price. But it was just, I don't know. This one, you're right, though. I guess that's the best way to put it. This is what the first one should have been.
I felt like the African-American culture and everything that they were going for here was not played for laughs. It was just a setting for the movie.
Right. Yeah. That's basically said it way better than
it didn't feel like
it
didn't feel like a punchline. There was comedy in here. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of good comedy in this one.
But it was legit comedy. It was a comedy that wasn't culturally inappropriate. I thought it was some just good comedy, some good scares. As scary as the leprechaun movies are, but you know what I mean. It had good horror elements, good comedy where it's supposed to be. There weren't any cheap laughs they were looking for. It was actually really enjoyable, and I was stunned when I told Tim. I texted him after. I'm like, I'm stunned. What I say in a shocking turn of events. I actually really like this one.
Yeah, so I would say definitely if you were wanting to see one of the Leprechaun Hood movies, then this is definitely the one. Is the one. This one was actually not bad. It was a very solid entry. And you know what? It's good that it ended on a high note, because this is actually the last of the Warwick Davis Leprechauns. So this is the last of the classic Leprechaun franchise.
Which is a little sad, but at least he went out on a good one. Can you imagine he went out on the one before it?
No, that would just be
First of all, you would have expected him to have gone out on that one but he came back. They must have maybe he's smart enough to realize, okay, you know what, this script's actually pretty good. This one maybe he thought of it as like a redemption to like the last one.
Yeah, so I was pleasantly surprised with that one. Now coming up is one that is very, very interesting. We're probably gonna spend some time on this one because it was hard to wrap my head around. This is Leprechaun Origins. Now keep in mind this is 2014, fairly recently. This one was a full 11 years after Back to the Hood, and directed by Zach Lipovsky. So you knew it was time for a bit of a reboot of the Leprechaun franchise. Right. Now this one, like we said, does not star Warwick Davis. It stars Dylan Hornswoggle Postal as the Leprechaun, which I use the term Leprechaun in the loosest possible sense.
I mean, we'll get into this more, but this one, I did see. So it's in the trivia later, but I'll just jump to it now, as because we kind of alluded to it as with that kind of clue. Dylan Postal, Hornswoggle from the WWE, if you haven't guessed that part, he purposely had never seen any Leprechaun films and hadn't watched any purposely before the role, and I, from what I understand, still didn't see it after. He wanted to take his role and do it originally, and I think even if he had seen them with the way this role was, he couldn't have mimicked it.
No.
This Leprechaun didn't even talk.
This one also has Stephanie Bennett as Sophie, Andrew Dunbar as Ben, Melissa Roxburgh as Jenny, Brendan Fletcher as David, Gary Chalk as Hamish, Teach Grant as Sean, Bruce Blaine as Ian, and Mary Black as Mary. This is about two young couples backpacking through Ireland who discover that one of Ireland's most famous legends is a terrifying reality. So, okay, guys, throw everything you know out about the Leprechaun franchise, because this is a completely different film. This is a monster movie, plain and simple. This is a classic monster movie. It follows the same formula we talked about last week when I was talking about Shrooms, which is young couples go off to a country that's foreign to them, and something happens, and they're secluded and by themselves in a strange country. I mean, this is, to a T, it follows that formula. Now, I will have to say, personally, I really like this one.
No, I did too. I told this, I think I had texted this to you, Tim. I said, you know what? I think I might have said, like, oh, this is interesting. You're going to like this, but it really is not. And I think you replied later this day too. You said something. I said, it's really not, in quotes, Leprechaun film.
Yeah.
Now, it could be Leprechaun in the lore of this movie. Like, if that's what the Leprechauns are like, then hey, sure, they've nailed it. But to put it into the series of this Leprechaun movie, I don't get it. Why they need to do that. Like, if I were them and I had this great, I mean, I guess maybe they were worried that no one would go see this if it didn't have the Leprechaun moniker. I mean, the movies have done this. This is not the first to have done this, where they've used the moniker of a really popular franchise to kind of sell their version of it. And that's fine, but the thing is, and I wonder if, again, when we do these summer Slaycations, we're watching them all in a group. I'm wondering if there was a big break, the 11-year break in between, we would have just said, oh, okay, they're going a different way. But I think since we're just watching them,
it's jarring,
and it's much more jarring, but I would say as a monster movie, like Tim had mentioned, it's actually a really well done one. It's really fun. It's got a cool, creepy vibe to it. I love when they go to some like European village like that, and it's, there's these, like, they walk into a pub, and there's these these American tourists, and they stick out like sore thumbs, and you just know they're walking into a death trap of some sort. I love it, and I love all that stuff. So I was in right away, except I told Tim that when they first they encountered the quote unquote leprechaun, I assumed that the difference was that he's got like these weird, like, minions or something, and these other creatures to go with them. I'm still waiting for literally a little leprechaun to come out and start cracking jokes, and it never came.
And we should talk about what the leprechaun looks like in this movie. So, spoiler alert, but the leprechaun in this movie essentially looks like the bat creature from Bram Stoker's Dracula. or maybe an orc from Lord of the Rings, or
Right,
it's one of these noseless looking beast things. It looks nothing like an actual leprechaun. It's not dressed up in clothes. I mean, it's neat. I like the take on the...
Imagine it was, though, but it was the same creature.
I mean,
in the little jacket.
Don't get me wrong. I love, like, when they take some realistic horror view of, like, a traditional mythical creature, like mermaids. Like, I love the idea of, like, a scary looking mermaid. You know, that's like
agree,
all monstrous and like I love that kind of stuff. Or when they talk about fairies and then but they're like really horrible alien looking things. I think that's cool. So I didn't mind the creature of a leprechaun being like this monstrous looking thing in this movie, but it is so not. It doesn't even belong in this franchise. You could have called this. I don't know. You could call it Beast of Ireland, or I don't know, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, like anything really. I mean, it didn't
have to be Ireland. You could set it anywhere. You could set this in any other country and put any generic mythical creature in, and it would have been the same, literally the same exact movie.
You know, it's almost like it kind of fits the formula of like a Night of the Living Dead, where you're like trapped in a location, and things are hunting you, and you can, you have literally like I think they're going from like literally like that field to that one house to the other house to the road back to the house they're in a very small, and they do a good job of setting the area so you kind of know where they're at all times, and they kind of they even set up one of the one of the things that got me, one of the shocking deaths, by like knowing the way that house was laid out with the fireplace, that kind of really not a fireplace. It's kind of like a...
Yeah, I mean, the performances were good. Like, it was decent acting. Like, I enjoyed the movie for what it was. Now, I kind of cheated, Brian, and read some rankings of the Leprechaun films that other sites had done. I didn't let it influence mine because I have my own ranking. But I just was curious what other people thought. And a lot of people hated this movie. And I think they hated it because it's not a quote-unquote leprechaun movie.
Right.
And so they put it...
And that's where that strategy fails.
Right.
When you put a beloved franchise and you change it too much.
So I do want to specify that I really enjoyed this one, but I didn't enjoy it as a leprechaun movie. I enjoyed it as a monster movie.
Exactly. As a horror movie, it's actually really good. As a leprechaun movie, it fails short. Now, and it's kind of unfair because, you were always saying like, oh, it's nice. We always enjoy reimaginings of things and stuff like that. It's just like, it's so different from the franchise that it's part of that. I don't know. And the fact to call it Origins even is worse, I think, for that kind of what you're getting.
Right, because there's no origin story here at all.
Yeah, I'm thinking, you're going to see how that leprechaun kind of and especially when you know that Hornswoggle's playing him. He used to dress up as a leprechaun somewhat in WWE. So I'm thinking what a perfect casting job. But he's unrecognizable.
Yeah, it could have been played by anybody.
Like, I wouldn't even, in fact, I thought it was CG half the time. I mean, it's like...
Well, I'm going to say right now, I'm not putting this in my ranking of the Leprechaun films because I can't decide where to put it, because if you're going to classified as a Leprechaun film, it would go way at the bottom.
Yeah, and the think of that. How could you realistically put this below like Leprechaun in Space, which it probably would have been just as a Leprechaun
right?
movie.
So it's not fair. It's so apples and oranges from the rest of the franchise. I decided I'm just going to take it out. I'm going to judge it.
Yeah, I'm fine with that, and I'll do the same because it really doesn't have a. It's like it's odd like placement.
It's almost like the closest thing I could think of would be almost like Halloween 3, trying to rank it with the rest of the Michael Myers Halloweens, which people do that. I mean, but Halloween 3 kind of has its own kind of cult status.
Right. I don't think this will get that.
Yeah, but this one's kind of weird. It's almost like if you did gosh, I can't even think of an analogy for this. It's so bizarre. But
like maybe Friday the 13th, but instead of Jason stalking you, it was like some towny guy like walking around.
Or it was like a giant alligator in Crystal Lake or something. It's just so randomly
something like that.
not.
Yeah, actually, because they kind of got that in part 5. But at least that was like, it was like flat out. It was written to the story that, okay, this is not Jason. This is an imposter Jason. So, so I mean, that one works. But this, they like tried to sell this as part of the Leprechaun franchise, and it was in the Leprechaun box set. And
Yeah.
and it's not a Leprechaun. And I will say this, I put this on the notes if you saw it in there. Like, what is with the dudes in this film? They are there with two gorgeous chicks. One guy falls asleep. The other one shows literally no interest when his girl is sitting there in this little skimpy outfit. And not only is she gorgeous, she's super sweet in the movie.
And he's reading a book.
She's like the total girl next door catch, and he's reading. What is he reading? Like a medical journal or something?
It was very frustrating.
I mean, and she's basically like
throwing herself at him.
Throwing him, say, "Come on, don't you want? You can't give this up." And he doesn't even look at her. I'm like, "What's wrong with you, dude?" Seriously. I mean, not to sound misogynistic. I don't mean to sound misogynistic, but come on.
The only thing I could think of was this movie. They were trying for a PG-13 rating. It's the only thing I could figure because.
I guess. But like, the other guy at least had an excuse. He was drinking a lot through the day. So he kind of he passed out. He didn't fall asleep. He kind of passed out. But still, I think, both. Yeah. Whatever. I mean, I had to put that down. It's just too funny because you're looking at this. I'm like,
come on, what's wrong with you?
You're a college guy,
The next one up, though, the series kind of ends. I wouldn't say it ends because I'm sure there'll be more. But
yes, if you look in the trivia, you'll be pleasantly surprised.
All right, so the franchise as we know it wraps up on a very high note.
Oh, and this was the one I was looking forward to the most.
Yeah, this is Leprechaun Returns from 2018, directed by Steven Kostanski, starring Taylor Spritler as Lila, Pepe Sanuga as Katie, Saj Bennett as Rose, Lyndon Porco, who we met at New Jersey HorrorCon as Leprechaun, Emily Reed as Meredith, Mark Holton as Ozzy is back. Ozzy's back. Ben McGregor as Andy, and Oliver Llewellyn-Jenkins as Matt. The Leprechaun returns once again when a group of girls unwillingly awaken him when they tear down a cabin so that they can build a new sorority house.
Yes. Did you catch, by the way, the sorority?
No.
What it was? It was AU, which of course is this periodic table for gold.
Oh, that's clever. That's very clever.
Which I did learn in the trivia. I didn't catch it myself.
This is a direct sequel to the original Leprechaun, which is really, really cool. So you have Ozzy's back as a grown man now, and we have...
Gotta love Ozzy coming back. That, instantly, I'm sold on the movie.
Yeah.
I'm sold.
Yeah, I was so excited when I found... Because I knew nothing about this movie going into it. I intentionally stayed away from all of these films because I wanted to watch it fresh. Yeah. But the other great...
And after meeting Lyndon Porco, I was so excited to see this one because he's such a great guy and we had such a great conversation with him. And he was saying how he was nervous to take over And so this one, from when we met him, I was excited to see this, but I knew we were doing this series, so I waited.
Yeah, same here. Now, this one was really exciting too because you have a character who's playing the daughter of Jennifer Aniston from the first film, the daughter of Tori Redding.
Right.
Comes back. She's one of the sorority girls. So it's a really direct tie-in, and they even have a voiceover of her mom, quote unquote. It's not really Jennifer Aniston doing the voiceover.
No, but didn't it sound
like her.
Really good?
They did a really good voiceover of her talking. So this was a great sequel to the original Leprechaun. You had now granted the premise is a little weird. Why are they coming out to build a sorority house in this remote town?
Well, they try and sell. Apparently, they're all whatever their majors are, whatever their purpose. You know how sororities have their what's the not the where they do the charitable work. Each sorority has
it's their project thing. I don't know what you call it.
Yeah, and so they're trying to do. They're trying to make everything solar powered and. I guess just they do that water thing they're trying to do, and they don't use the well, but they use the other water. So it's they're really trying to be all super eco friendly kind of thing.
So it's kind of contrived, but I guess you could kind of buy it. But it is cool to see the return of Ozzy, and of course he recognizes the daughter because he says she reminds him of somebody he used to know, and then he finds out that it's Tori Redding's daughter, which is kind of a cool tie back to the original. I loved how they tied so much stuff back to the original. They had the well that the leprechaun falls down in the first movie is still there. He's still kind of Ozzy's still kind of terrified and traumatized from the whole ordeal. You can tell.
Yeah. And apparently he runs Doobie's Taxiola or whatever version of it is there.
Yeah.
Because he's damn proud of his town.
He's got the party taxi going on. So this one was really good. And you know what? I liked all the characters. The characters were likable, especially the main girl who plays Tori's daughter, was fantastic.
Yeah, she was on. She was one of the bright spots of that Kevin Can Wait. She played his oldest daughter on
Okay,
that
I
show.
haven't seen that one, so I didn't
thought she was
recognize
pretty good
her.
on that.
But she was fantastic as a quote unquote final girl. She was a fantastic final girl in this movie.
Yeah, really good. Because you know what she had. You know what she had a head on her shoulders. You could tell right from the beginning, so you knew, like, you know what, like this one is like, you know what, she's not only going to be the final girl, but you know she's going to like kick some butt. Like, you know, she's going to be tough. And I like that kind of thing. You know, it's like they kind of set up the characters really well in this. Like, you knew who was going to like do well. You knew where their weaknesses were pretty quick on.
And I love that she was like super smart. Like, I love that she was not one of these dumb bimbos that you see in all these horror movies. That, I mean, she was.
Well, none of them really worked. I mean, there was the drunk one that played a little bit of a stereotypical.
Yeah, but she was like intentionally looked down upon by the other ones because of that. You know,
right. She was not a true fit, and they made her know
right.
it.
So it kind of, I mean, like all the women in this movie were actually really, really portrayed in a very nice, positive light for a horror movie. I will have to say, you know, a lot of horror films are just very. I mean, the women are just sex objects, basically. Yeah. But in this movie, they're not at all, and I really like that part.
Actually, if you think about the Leprechaun franchises as a whole, I mean, even the Origins one that had a strong female. I mean, you know, it left a little ambiguous in the ending what her result is, but you know, she was a fighter. And Leprechaun in the Hood, she was the main girl was a fighter in this and was really, you know, good. Even the second one and the third one really they kind of little went stereotype with the damsel in distress kind of thing. But Jennifer Aniston's Tori Redding in the first one.
Yeah,
tough.
Yes.
You know, like you didn't think she was going to be, but she turned it around. And
but this was just entertaining through and through. Like, I love the scenes with Ozzy, of course, seeing him again, Mark Holton again, and
why does he still have the coin though? I don't get that part.
Yeah, that was kind of weird. I don't know, but there's some weird. I'm not going to give it away, but there is some weird twist with his character that were a little weird. But I guess if you can buy a leprechaun, you can buy anything, right? Let's talk about Lyndon Porco's performance, because this is one of the really pleasant surprises. Now, granted, I was a little worried because this is the first film. It's not the first film without Warwick Davis, but it's the first like leprechaun where you actually see a leprechaun, not a monster.
Right, and where there's going to be jokes
talking
and dialogue.
And he's going to rhyme in this one. He speaks in limericks a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And I will have to say, Lyndon Porco did a fantastic job. It's not Warwick Davis's Leprechaun, but it's his own version, and it's actually really good in a different way.
Right. Right. Now, the first thing that took me a little off guard was the high pitch of his voice. But that's it. Then once I realized, I'm like, oh, that's right. You know what? Okay, it's you know, he's got a different. But like he you know what he did? He embodied the same spirit. The same reason you loved Warwick Davis, he found it. Even though he did it in his own way. He still manages to get you to like the character, you know? And you're like, yeah, I dig this guy, the Leprechaun, you know? It's like, I mean, granted, he was, you know, and he's still a villain, but he's like, you know, he's enjoyable. He did such a good job, like, to take over the mantle like that. And literally, an unknown now, Lyndon Porco. I mean... Nobody probably, you know, other than the people that are really into horror circuits, you know who he was. And so he comes and takes this role, and he had to, like, literally, like, just go all in on it. And he just did a fantastic job. I loved it. And, like, if they did another 4 sequels with him in it, I'd be
yeah,
good.
I mean, it goes back to what we were trying to say earlier in the episode when we were alluding to the Nightmare on Elm Street reboot, is that this proves that you can take a popular, iconic character, put your own spin on it, and it still be a good character. And it doesn't take away from Warwick Davis's performances at all. It's its own thing, and I really liked it. It wasn't it in no way ruined my enjoyment of the earlier Warwick Davis performances. It was just his own spin on it, and it was great. I liked it.
Yeah, no, and this was completely one of my favorite ones in the series. I mean, I love this one. I had such a good time watching this one, to the point of actually I want to kind of go back and watch this one again. I enjoyed it that much, actually.
Yeah, and I just liked that it was a fan service to fans of the original Leprechaun. There's a lot of tiebacks to that movie. And I love that they did that with it. Like, they really tried to bring it full circle, and then had a great performance by Lyndon Porco in it as well. So yeah, I really, really like this one, and it will rank high on my rankings, which we'll get to right after the trivia, I think.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, I kind of hope we get to see Lyndon Porco at a future convention again, so now we could talk to him after seeing his performance.
Right, because we had not seen it, so we were kind of like, yeah, it was nice meeting him, but we didn't really know, we had not seen the movie, so it was kind of, but I would love to meet him again after seeing this and just say, dude, you knocked it out of the park.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, because remember, and he was very humble about it. He was like nervous. Remember he said, because we asked him, he said, how does it feel to take over such a role? And he was like, well, yeah, I was a little nervous. And then he was, but like, now I want to go to him. I was like, wow, you nailed it. Like, you were awesome. Like, you don't need to ever be nervous about taking over
some
that
good
role.
kills in this one, and the Leprechaun cracked some jokes, and it kind of goes back to the Warwick Davis style Leprechaun in terms of the rhymes and the jokes and stuff, but it's a lot scarier. Like, it's not as comedic.
Yeah, little like it was a really,
it's
really
a lot
good
darker.
mix of that,
So I think it definitely put more horror to the horror comedy than the way the franchise had been going. With the exception of Origins, which is just full-blown horror. Of course.
Yeah, no comedy
so let's go through a little bit of the trivia. So Leprechaun in the Hood trivia here had the closest release date to St. Patrick's Day, and it was released to DVD on March 28th, 2000. So it kind of had some ties into the actual holiday. It was the last entry to be released by Trimark, which is,
Did it finish Trimark?
I know, it's kind of like, you always think of New Line as the Nightmare on Elm Street studio. Trimark will now forever be the Leprechaun studio in my mind. Yeah. And of course, we talked about this is the fifth movie in the Leprechaun series, even though the number 5 doesn't appear anywhere in it. It's called Leprechaun in the Hood. Back to the Hood. The Leprechaun has a new outfit in this movie, giving him a more demonic look. And that's one thing I want to bring out about the Leprechaun Returns is his teeth are actually pointy in this one. They're not kind of just made up. Like, you could tell the makeup effects had advanced a lot.
And much to Anna's disappointment now. He went to full pointy teeth, right?
Leprechaun Back to the Hood had a lot of callbacks to lines from earlier Leprechaun films, like the Damn Clovers line and the Eye for an Eye, Me Dear, which are all used in the original.
There's a lot of eyes coming at it in this franchise.
Yeah, there's a lot of eye stuff. Yeah. Rob Sparrow, who was the director of Leprechaun in the Hood, was involved in Back to the Hood in the early stages and came up with 2 storylines, one set in Venice Beach and another set on an island during spring break. However, the positive reaction to the previous film, which was Leprechaun in the Hood, resulted in the producers insisting that the film again be set in an inner city with a cast primarily made up of rappers. So Sparrow left. That's the whole reason he left. He didn't want to make the same movie again, and that's when he was replaced by the new director. So that's kind of interesting. Even though I think it's a better movie.
Yeah, and I didn't realize that this was actually got a positive review.
Well, I'd always heard good things about it. That's why it was weird. And again, you have to look at it. This was Leprechaun in the Hood was 2000. Right. Probably after Space, anything would have felt good.
True. Yeah, we're looking at those back to back within
tough to make that call when you're watching them, binge watching them.
A few days.
So for Leprechaun Origins trivia, star Dylan Postal stated that he had never seen any of the previous. Oh, we talked about that. Okay, we'll cut that one.
Yeah, we mentioned.
So I'm going to start that over. So Leprechaun Origins was the first film in the franchise to be released in theaters, even though it was a limited run, since Leprechaun 2 in 1994. So the rest of them had been direct to video, which I probably knew that at some level, but reading it kind of like brought it home to me. I was like, oh, that's right. I never thought about that, but I don't remember seeing Leprechaun movies in the theater, except for those early ones.
Sworn 3 was in the theater. I remember seeing 3, but I remember just seeing an ad for it, so maybe I just remember the ad.
Yeah. This one I definitely got caught on the first time around, which was the line "F you, Lucky Charms," as said by Sophie right before she kills the leprechaun. Is the same line said by Alex in the original Leprechaun. That was kind of obvious. Right. And, again, this movie has so little to do with the actual Leprechaun movies that even that one line seems gratuitous to even throw that in there.
Yeah, I know.
And then finally for Leprechaun Returns, Warwick Davis was offered the chance to reprise his role in this film, but declined it. And he said the reason was his view of the genre has changed significantly since he became a father, and he doesn't think he'll appear in any more horror films. Which, good for him if that's his thing. I'm a father. I still love horror movies, but I totally respect people that kind of want to get away from that kind of darker stuff when they get families and stuff. I understand it. I even went through that period of time when the kids were babies. I didn't want to watch horror movies. I really wasn't into it. It took me a little while for them to get a little older before I got back into it. So I understand that.
But it's funny, Look Down 2, trivia from that, and this is what,
oh yeah,
which kind of contradicts it a little.
So yeah, this is another piece of trivia from the same entry in IMDb where it said, of course we talked about him taking a break from horror movies, Warwick Davis, but he did not say he was done with the Leprechaun franchise. He mentioned at the end of an article that he would do horror again when his own son turned 18, so there's still a chance. When Warwick Davis' son becomes an adult, he may return again as a leprechaun in a future sequel.
But see, as much as I'd want him back, I don't want Lyndon Porco to lose his job. Can they put them both in the movie?
That would be cool.
Like maybe
there's got to be more than
leprechauns?
one leprechaun. Come on.
Right. How great would that be that you find out that that there are two out there?
The skin of the leprechaun resembles Ash during almost the entire film, which is a reference to the alleged death of him in the 1993 film. So that's kind of cool that they try to...
I did not notice that.
Yeah.
His skin was a little...
Yeah, he actually kind of regenerated from just a tiny fraction of the original Leprechaun. So it's kind of a callback to his death in the previous movie.
And that's something that they kind of popped through some of the other sequels.
Yeah.
Remember they said you could find parts of him could be reformed.
And this is the only film in the franchise where the Leprechaun has heterochromia, which is eyes of different colors, which is kind of cool. All right, so let's get to our beer pairing. We're going to just use the same as last week, which is the Lucky SOB from Flying Dog, because I don't think that was just too perfect.
Yeah, I know. I couldn't, and I really why try?
Brewed with real 4-leaf clovers, you can't top that. So let's get right to our triple threat. So last week we were looking for an actor or actress, and we were looking for Danielle Harris. Cody got it. I believe we got some correct answers on that one. But this one was tough.
Yeah, she said this one was hard. I didn't think it was.
I didn't either, but we'll go through the clues and explain them a little bit. Clue number 1, I once starred in a very popular horror series and 2 of its remakes, but played different roles. Of course, she played Jamie Lloyd in Halloween 4 and 5, and Annie Brackett in Rob Zombie's Halloween 1 and 2. She once starred in a commercial for a classic popular board game. She was in a commercial for the Operation board game with Matthew Lawrence. I need to go track that down on YouTube.
I'm pretty sure I've seen it. There was some guy, someone had posted it a couple of years back, I think.
And then clue number 3, I provided a voice for a very popular animated family series. She provided the voice for Debbie Thornberry on the hit show The Wild Thornberrys and its subsequent movies, which I did not know that. I've seen episodes of that. I did not know she was the voice.
See, that was, I thought, the one that would give it away, but also, I guess, could be tricky because probably people immediately go to, Simpsons.
Right, that's not like a super...
And who didn't do a Simpsons voice? Seriously, right?
Yeah, that's not like a super... Unless you were, growing up in the 90s type thing, it might not be on your radar. I only knew about it kind of tangentially. This week, we're looking for another actor or actress. This one's hard, guys. This one's going to be hard. So listen carefully. Clue number 1, I appeared in one of the all-time classic horror films, yet not when it was originally released. Ooh, that's very tricky.
Yeah.
I'll read that one again. I appeared in one of the all-time classic horror films, yet not when it was originally released. Clue number 2, although I studied acting in New York City, I was actually born in Vancouver, British Columbia. And clue number 3, while I'm primarily known for my roles in films, I had several writing columns in various publications throughout my career and still do to this day. So if you guys can get that one, you're really on your game. That's a tough one.
Yeah. And as crazy as that first clue sounds, I think that's the one that could get you started if you can figure that one out.
Yeah. So, So that, I will have to say, Brian, the Leprechaun series far exceeded my expectations overall. Oh, we didn't give our rankings.
Oh yeah, we got to do that. But yeah, I was gonna just say, I thought it was going to be downhill with this second part based on the way Leprechaun in Space went, and they usually say, oh, once it goes there, that's the end of the franchise. But I mean, with a little bump in the road from Leprechaun in the Hood, I think it picked up in an unusual way, and it's so actually I have to think, and it may actually rearrange my ranking from the first half, because I'm gonna I know we kind of did like a somewhat of a ranking, but it wasn't a true ranking. I think it was just a moment, like a spur of the moment one. But these will be our true rankings.
Yeah.
on
So
there.
I don't know how do we want to do this? We want to go like worst to best, or best to worst, or probably worst to best would be better.
Yeah,
And we're not going to do Leprechaun Origins. We're going to leave that out of this.
No, we'll get a pass on.
So
that one.
we've got 7 films we've got to rank. So I am going to. I guess we'll go worst first. All right, my worst has to be Leprechaun 4 in Space.
Yeah, I'm gonna go there too.
Now, I will say, in the rankings I saw from other lists, there's people that rank this higher than the last. And that's because I think some people see the outrageousness of this movie as a positive. It's like so crazy and out there that they kind of like it on that level, like a so bad it's good type level. I just thought it was so bad it's bad, so I'm putting it dead last. Brian agrees.
Yeah, that's where it is on mine too.
All right. This one's tough because now you have to say the second worst film. Yeah. And to me, that's a tie between 2 of these. But I'm going to have to go. This one might surprise you based on my earlier ranking from the first episode, Brian. But I'm going to go with Leprechaun 2 as my second worst.
Really? Because I remember you liked that one the first
I
time.
did. But now that I've seen the whole franchise as a whole, I've got to go with Leprechaun 2 as my second worst.
So I'm gonna go a little bit different, and I'm gonna do. I think I'm gonna do the Leprechaun in the Hood as my second.
Yeah,
worst.
see, this was tough because I could go either way, and you could probably convince me that In the Hood was probably worse than 2. But I think the problem is, I don't know, man, that's tough. That one could go either way, but I'm gonna stick with it. So, all right, so I say Leprechaun 2. Brian says Leprechaun in the Hood. So for me, we probably flip flop this next one, Brian, because I'm gonna go Leprechaun in the Hood.
Yeah, and that's where my 2 is.
Yeah, and like I said, I could easily be persuaded just to match Brian because I think both those movies were definitely in the bottom tier. All right, so now we're kind of in the middle of the pack. So we got. I'm gonna have to say though that Back to the Hood takes the number 4 spot.
That's actually exactly 4. Yes, that's where it is on mine too.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so now we're in the top 3. So we've got...
So we obviously have the same top 3.
Right, so we have Leprechaun, Leprechaun 3, and Leprechaun Returns left. I've got to go, Brian. I might be a little off from you on this one, but as much as I did enjoy 3, I still put Leprechaun above it. So I'm going Leprechaun 3 next as my third.
Actually, that is mine too. Because and just to go ahead, it's because of how good and how much I loved Leprechaun Returns.
All right,
and that goes to my number 2.
And then my number 2 is going to be. I hate to say this, I'm actually going to go Leprechaun.
Wow.
And I'm going to put Leprechaun Returns as my... No, you know what? I can't do that because of Warwick Davis. I got to go Leprechaun Returns as number 2 and Leprechaun as number 1.
I tell you, it was a lot closer. Like, I was actually considering that myself. I was like, I really like Leprechaun Returns. But
no.
I don't think I could put it number 1 just for the fact that we wouldn't have that one if 1 was not there. And 1 was... with Warwick Davis was so great in it, and it started off everything. But I'll tell you, it's like almost like a 1.5. I thought Leprechaun Returns. That's how much.
Well,
I
I'll tell you what,
one.
we're gonna give the definitive Civil War ranking of the Leprechaun movies because Brian, you've persuaded me on my number 6. So here's our definitive ranking of the Leprechaun movies from best to worst. Best, Leprechaun. Second best, Leprechaun Returns. Third, Leprechaun 3. Fourth, Leprechaun Back to the Hood. 5, Leprechaun 2. 6, Leprechaun in the Hood. And 7, Leprechaun 4 in Space. Agreed?
Yeah.
So
agreed.
say it, shall it be. So, that's our definitive Civil War ranking of the Leprechaun movies. And if you disagree, or if you do agree, please drop us a line and let us know.
Yes. And by the way, we should just say, just because we moved it out of the ranking, definitely don't write off Leprechaun Origins because of what we said. Watch it as just a horror movie.
Yeah, it definitely is a worthy watch.
A great horror movie.
For sure.
Yeah. And that's a WWE Studios film, by the way.
That's interesting, yeah.
So it's like, yeah, so they put out a good horror film. So
all right, guys, so keep sending those iTunes reviews in to be entered into a chance to win a Civil Gore prize pack. I swear I got to post some Instagram pics of some of those prizes. I'm sorry, guys. I have not done that yet, but I will try to do that as soon as possible. And, continue dropping us emails. We really enjoy your emails and your Facebook posts. And love hearing from you guys. And we'll be back next week with our next franchise, Brian. What's it going to be?
It's
Phantasm. So that's going to be a doozy one as well. Now, granted, Brian, you have not seen all the sequels I've seen. I've seen everything but 5.
I think I've just seen 1.
And you were going to be so excited for this series.
I know, I am. And this is good because it's only it's 5 total,
5
right?
total, yep.
Right, so it's good because we can break it up. Now, I don't think did we actually come up with the official thing? We were going to do 1 and 2, I think, in the first week, just because 1 probably will take some.
Yeah, I think
take a chunk of the time.
1 and 2 is probably a good breaking point because 3 goes a little like most third entries in the franchises. 3 kind of goes a little out there, but 3 is actually really, really good. So this is one of those franchises. I think all the films are good. So yeah, I think you're really going to enjoy this one. So I can't wait to get back into them. Like I said, I've watched 1 through 4 fairly recently when we watched that box set, and I'm actually dying to get back to them. So I can't wait.
Cool. I know. Yeah, this will be fun to do. Like a it's one of those horror series that probably doesn't get a lot of coverage, right? I mean, I don't see many podcasts discuss.
I think it's very, very popular among the hardcore horror fans. But it's not one that has really leaked into the mainstream. It's definitely a horror fans franchise, I believe.
Right.
So, guys, we'll see you back here next week. I'm looking forward to it. And in the meantime, eat your Lucky Charms.
I don't even have a response to that. It was too good to end it. Okay.
Gee, I guess I was wrong. We don't have to involve the authorities in this matter, do we, Mr. Buxton? I mean, it was a simple mistake, and I'm really sorry.
Well, but I still think that you owe Francis an apology. And then I want to see the two of you shake hands.
I'm sorry, Francis. Here, would you care for some gum? Would you care for some, Mr. Buxton?
Oh.
Spearmint or fruit?
Fruit, please.